Have you ever watched those the really bubbly coworkers, the ones who just glide through conversations, making friends seem so easy, while maybe your own legs feel a bit wobbly just thinking about making small talk?
Oh, absolutely. Or that feeling, that kind of sting of loneliness, wishing you had more connection.
Exactly. And if that sounds like you listening, then you are definitely not alone. But here's the really great news. Social skills. They aren't some magic talent people are born with. They are absolutely learnable.
It's such a common feeling, that sense of isolation or just not knowing quite how to, bridge that gap. And what we're diving into today, it isn't about finding some secret charisma. It's about practical, actionable strategies, things anyone can actually use.
Practical, actionable strategies. That's the key, right? Because that often
Mhm.
feels like this innate thing.
Yeah.
So what's the first misconception in the book we're looking at challenges? Our mission today is a deep dive into mastering communication, pulling insights from John Wilson's brilliant book, Master Your Communication, How to Talk to Anyone with Confidence.
That was published by Book Your Destiny back in 2022. Great resource.
It really is. And this isn't just theory. We want to give you the tools to actually, transform your social interactions.
Yeah, it's about building real confidence, getting over those social fears, learning how to start conversations, how to keep them going, reading those nonverbal cues, which are so important, and ultimately building genuine friendships.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's start with the why. John Wilson kicks off by reminding us that life's a journey, right? Who you are now isn't necessarily who you have to be.
Right. And choosing to work on ourselves consistently, that's tough. It takes effort.
It really does.
Mm-hmm.
But Wilson argues that self-awareness isn't just knowing yourself. It's this kind of radical acceptance that your current social habits, they aren't fixed. And just realizing that, well, that unlocks a huge amount of potential. Yeah.
Think of it like having a map for a big adventure. Understanding your social strengths, your limits, that's your map. And the point of reflecting isn't like beating yourself up over flaws.
No, definitely not.
It's about getting really clear on where you are now and maybe more importantly, figuring out where you want to go with your social growth. It's a tool for progress, not for staying stuck.
And it truly is a journey, not some quick sprint. Wilson really emphasizes that any growth, like even small steps forward, that's real progress. You don't need these huge, dramatic results overnight.
No, it's about consistent movement, setting yourself up for success over time, bit by bit.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting, I think. The book makes this crucial distinction about anxiety.
Right.
It talks about genuine fear versus just physiological apprehension.
Yes. He uses this really vivid analogy. Imagine a bear wandering into your campsite.
Okay, yeah. Real danger.
That's real fear. It's
Yeah.
there to keep you safe.
Right.
But then he talks about the movie monster, something that might trigger the same physical feelings, sweaty palms, racing heart,
Uh-huh.
but it poses no actual threat. It's the difference between a real danger and just a perceived one.
And most social anxiety, the book argues, comes from that second category, those physical concerns, not actual danger.
Exactly. And the core message here is pretty profound. Failure is to be expected in social situations, but enjoyment is paramount.
Enjoyment is paramount, even when you might fail. That's a big mental shift.
It is, because think about it, no one actually got mauled by a bear during an awkward conversation, right?
Uh-huh, right. Good point. Maybe felt like it sometimes, but no actual bears.
Exactly. So it's okay to try. It's okay to even fall flat sometimes. You might feel embarrassed for a moment, sure, but you recover and you learn from it.
So are there practical ways Wilson suggests to kind of shift into that enjoyment mindset when you're feeling that movie monster anxiety creeping in?
Well, a big part is reframing failure. Don't see it as some verdict on you as a person. See it as feedback, data. When you focus on enjoying the process, the interaction itself, you kind of detach from needing a specific outcome.
Okay, focus on the process, not the result.
Yeah. And tied into this, the book gives a really strong warning against using manipulative social skills.
Oh, interesting.
Because true connections, the meaningful ones, they're built on mutual trust and consideration, not trying to trick people. Manipulation might seem like it works short term,
Right.
but Wilson warns you'll always be exposed in the long run. It just doesn't lead to authentic relationships.
So if manipulation is out, what's the alternative for genuine connection?
It really comes down to letting people in and letting them see the true you. Your current lack of skills might feel like a barrier, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Wilson stresses that's not who you are. It's a skill set, and it can be improved. It's not about faking it or becoming someone else. It's about removing those barriers you might have put up yourself.
Okay, so being authentic, but also skilled.
Precisely. And speaking of skills, What's truly fascinating is how much communication isn't even words. It's nonverbal.
Right. Your body is always speaking, even when you're silent. It's this constant stream of signals.
Often unconscious signals, too. Learning to decode them in yourself and others is absolutely key.
It's amazing how much our bodies give away. But how do we avoid, overanalyzing every little twitch? Is there a risk of focusing too much on tiny signals and missing the big picture?
That's a really important question. Wilson's approach avoids that by focusing on clusters of behaviors, not just isolated gestures. He uses this great red light, green light analogy.
Okay, tell me more.
So, green lights are clusters of comfort signals. When someone's showing these, you're generally in a good place. Think about them leaning in closer, maybe tilting their head as they listen. Or for women specifically, sometimes tucking one foot under themselves on a couch. That's a big comfort signal. There's also that genuine smile, the one that reaches the eyes.
Yeah, Jushin smile.
Exactly. And appropriate physical contact, like a light touch on the arm. These things together, in a cluster, signal comfort and interest, a green light.
Okay, so clusters are key. And conversely, the red lights, the discomfort signals, what should we look out for there?
Also look for clusters. Things like touching or rubbing the neck or face, often self-soothing gestures, or rubbing their knees, maybe like they're wiping sweaty palms.
Right.
Reluctance to engage is a big one. Pulling back physically, crossing their arms tightly, maybe even angling their feet away from you, like they're ready to leave.
Feet pointing towards the exit.
Yeah, it can be subtle but telling. Also interrupting with their hands, like a half-raised hand showing they want to jump in, or really minimal eye contact. If they look away and don't quickly look back, that's often a strong sign of discomfort, a red light cluster.
Got it. Clusters, not single signs. But you mentioned context earlier, too. How does that fit in?
Context is everything, and this directly addresses your point about overinterpreting. Just reading a signal or even a cluster isn't enough. You need to look at three things.
Okay, Riley.
First, the content of the conversation. Did a specific topic make them shift uncomfortably? Second, watch for changes in their comfort levels related to specific questions you asked. Did they clam up after you asked about X? And third, consider the setting. Is there a loud argument nearby? Is the room uncomfortably crowded? Did their ex just walk in? It might have nothing to do with you or what you said. Context stops you from assuming it's always about you.
That is such a good reminder. It's rarely all about us. And while we're busy decoding others, we need to remember our own nonverbals are just as important, maybe more so.
Absolutely. The book uses a great example. You've had a terrible day, right? But your friend needs to vent. If you're yawning, checking your watch, arms crossed.
Your body is screaming, I'm not interested, even if you're saying, tell me more.
Exactly. The key isn't to fake being interested if you're genuinely exhausted, but maybe to say, hey, I really want to hear this, but I'm wiped. Can we talk properly tomorrow? Or at least ensure your body language aligns with the most crucial truth, maybe that you do care, even if you're tired. And it raises that important question. How do you want your body to speak about you?
Are my nonverbals matching my words? That's huge. Okay, let's shift gears slightly to the art of conversation itself. The book breaks down successful interactions into three pillars.
That's right. First, your own comfort and trust levels in the situation. Second, your actual technical conversation skills, the nuts and bolts. And third, your personality and values, the authentic you we talked about. They all work together.
And Wilson emphasizes being intentional, right? Not just chatting aimlessly.
Yes. He suggests you try to spell out your intentions for the discussion, even if just to yourself. It helps you be more present and purposeful, guiding the conversation so it ideally benefits both people rather than just filling silence.
So what are some specific strategies for connection that he recommends?
Well, they sound simple, but they're powerful. First, actively get to know the other person and look for areas of agreement. Humans naturally bond over shared stuff, even small things.
Finding common ground. Makes sense.
Second, balance that by also telling them about yourself. Share your quirks or values, what you did last weekend. It's about reciprocity, not being self-absorbed, as long as you give them space, too.
Yeah, that two-way street.
And third, just demonstrate that you're engaged. Act as though you actually like talking to them. Your body language, your listening cues, they all signal that.
I like that idea of reciprocity. So when you're actually in the back and forth, Wilson uses that great tennis ball metaphor. Can you unpack that a bit?
Sure. The idea is you want to hit the conversational ball back in a way that makes it easy for the other person to return it. Keep the rally going.
Okay, so how do you do that?
A big part is using broad, open-ended questions. Instead of, do you like your job? which is closed, yes, no.
Right.
Ask something like, what led you to choose that field? It invites a story, more detail, and when you make statements, give them some meat on the bones, some jumping off points. Don't just say, I saw a movie. Say, I saw that new sci-fi movie. The visual effects were incredible, but the plot felt a bit thin. Give them something to react to.
Give them hooks to grab onto. Got it.
Exactly. And even simple things, little verbal nods, can keep the flow going. Things like, or or oh yeah, go on.
Like little encouragements.
Precisely. They show you're listening and you want them to continue without actually interrupting their flow. Conversational lubricant, basically.
Nice term.
Uh,
Okay, so what if you feel like you just run out of things to say? How do you increase your conversational material?
Two main suggestions in the book. First, actively acquire knowledge and experience. Try new things, even small stuff, a new cafe, watch a different TV show, check out a new website. It all adds to your mental library.
Build up your reserves.
Exactly. And second, try to be well-versed in a variety of topics. You don't need to be an expert, but knowing a little about different things makes it easier to connect with more people. And connecting this to the bigger picture, it's about developing empathy, too.
So,
By expanding your own interests, you get better at understanding people who don't share your main passions. You learn to put yourself in their shoes, find that unexpected common ground.
that's a really valuable perspective. Okay, but what about those moments we all dread? The awkward pauses, how do we handle those?
Well, first, try to figure out the source. Is it something you're doing? Maybe insecurities, setting unrealistic expectations for the chat, or sending weird body language signals?
Okay.
Or does it seem to be coming from them? Maybe they genuinely don't want to connect right now, or perhaps they're making assumptions about you, stereotyping. It's helpful to diagnose.
And how do you figure that out, especially the is it me part?
For your own stuff, Willson recommends getting feedback. Ask a supportive friend, someone you trust, or even consider talking to a licensed counselor for objective insight. They might see something you're missing.
Getting an outside perspective. Makes sense. What about common worries, like feeling desperate if you're actively trying to make friends?
Oh, that's a huge myth. The book tackles this head-on. Self-assured, outgoing people actively seek out friends all the time. It's normal. Asking someone about their weekend plans isn't desperate, it's just friendly.
Right. It's how friendships start.
Exactly. And if someone says no to hanging out, remember, it's often not personal. They might be busy, tired, introverted. Countless reasons that have nothing to do with you. Don't internalize every rejection.
That's freeing. Okay, so let's talk about building friendships more deeply. The book outlines a process.
Yeah, a pretty clear four-step cycle. 1, meet interesting people. Put yourself in situations where that can happen. 2, plan activities with potential friends. Take the initiative. 3, deepen those connections through shared experiences and conversation. And 4, repeat. Keep doing steps 1, 2, and 3 until you build the social circle you want.
Meet, plan, deepen, repeat. Simple, but requires consistency.
Totally. And the book also busts some really unhelpful myths about friendship. Like loneliness isn't an inherent flaw.
What's the deeper insight there?
It's that we often treat loneliness like it's some permanent part of our character. But Willson argues it's usually a result of habits and lifestyle choices, things that can actually be changed. It reframes it as solvable.
That is incredibly empowering. What else?
Wanting friends isn't desperate. We covered that. It's a basic human need. Also, ignoring your feelings of isolation is a handicap. Hiding it just makes it worse. Acknowledge it so you can address it.
Makes sense. Don't suppress it.
Right. And you have to take responsibility for your social life. You can't just wait for invitations to fall in your lap. Sometimes you need to be the one reaching out.
Take ownership.
Yes. And finally, accept that unpredictability is inevitable. People send mixed signals sometimes. Focus on your actions, the things you can control to move towards your goals, rather than getting bogged down by confusing interactions you can't control.
Focus on your own actions. I like that. But what about real-world practical hurdles? Like what if you live somewhere remote, or you're just naturally an indoor person, or money's tight?
He addresses those directly. The core idea is find a workaround, show some agency, remote location, host things yourself, or explore nearby towns. Indoor person. Meet people for activities elsewhere, or make your place inviting. No car. Ride-sharing, public transport. Money issues. Focus on free stuff walks, parks, game nights, potlucks, budget-friendly cafes. Too young for bars. All ages music venues, house parties, community events.
So there's almost always a creative solution if you look for it.
Pretty much. It's about problem solving, not giving up at the first obstacle.
Okay. And what about the pickiness problem he mentions? How loneliness can sometimes make you more critical of potential friends.
Yeah, it's ironic, isn't it? You're lonely, but you find fault easily. Wilson encourages giving people a second chance. His point is, you may not initially enjoy spending time with someone, but after getting over your initial reservations, you may realize that you enjoy their company. Be open to being surprised.
Don't write people off too quickly.
Exactly. And related to that, challenging the idea that common interests like sports or celebrity news are automatically shallow.
Ah, the shallow judgment. What's his take?
It's not just that shallowness isn't necessarily bad, but that judging others as shallow based on surface interest might actually reveal our own lack of depth in looking for connection beyond those initial topics. Many people have hidden depths, and common ground, even seemingly simple stuff, is a valid place to start building rapport.
That flips the script a bit. Interesting. Okay, speaking of quick judgments, let's talk about the impressions we make. The book mentions something astonishing about how fast people form them.
It's kind of mind-blowing. People form a first impression within 7 seconds. Some studies suggest even faster, like 33 to 100 milliseconds.
Wow, less than the blink of an eye, basically.
Pretty much. And these first impressions are notoriously sticky, hard to change. They can really impact your career, your personal life. Our brains just make these super fast, often subconscious judgments.
Okay, that's intimidating. Knowing it's that fast, what are the absolute most crucial things we can do to make a good first impression? Beyond just, trying to be nice. How do we convey authenticity quickly?
Great question. Wilson gives really clear, actionable tips. It starts with direct but not staring eye contact. He mentions the 60-40 rule, look about 60% while talking, 40% while listening. Shows engagement.
Okay, 60-40 eye contact.
A warm, genuine smile, the kind that reaches your eyes. Dressing appropriately for the situation shows respect. And you hit the nail on the head. Be genuine. People are surprisingly good at spotting insincerity.
Right, don't fake it.
Exactly. Aim to align how you feel inside with how you present outside. Also, project an upbeat demeanor, good posture, open body language, uncrossed arms, a firm handshake if appropriate, and show compassion and empathy. It's about projecting warmth, self-assurance, and approachability.
Makes sense. What are the big don'ts? Things to definitely avoid.
Trying too hard is a big one.
Yeah.
That often comes across as talking way too much or dominating the conversation.
Okay, avoid monologuing.
Yes. Also, cutting people off mid-sentence, huge sign of disrespect. And the modern classic, constantly checking your phone. It just screams, you're not important.
Put the phone away. Got it. But what if you mess up? You make a bad first impression. Is it game over?
Not at all. Wilson is clear. It's never too late to recover. There are steps. First, recognize the error. Acknowledge to yourself what went wrong. Second, offer a sincere apology if it's appropriate for the situation. Third, think forward. Don't dwell on the mistake.
Learn from it. Move on.
Right. And crucially, fourth, maintain a pattern of good behavior consistently over time. It's the sustained positive actions that rebuild trust and change perception. One good interaction might not fix it, but consistent effort usually does.
Consistency is key again. So, moving beyond first impressions, how do we attract the best kinds of people into our lives long term?
According to the book, it really starts with internal work, aligning your actions with positive values. It begins with self-love and self-control. Wilson says this is the foundation for attracting people who accept the real you.
Okay, starts from within.
Then humility. Acting normal, not needing to put others down, being open to new ideas, radiating warmth, being there for people, trying to see things from their perspective.
Empathy, again.
Definitely. Living life fully, having experiences, learning things makes you more interesting and naturally draws people in. Having a sense of humor helps immensely. Laughter builds bonds.
Can't underestimate humor.
And finally, a really powerful one. Consciously putting others first sometimes. Shifting your goals from purely self-centered ones to genuinely considering others' best interests, that kind of attitude attracts loyalty and deep connections.
It's about radiating the qualities you want to see in others. Makes a lot of sense. Now, the book also smartly points out that communication isn't one size fits all. We need to adapt based on who we're talking to. Can we touch briefly on some key adaptations, say, for talking to your boss?
Sure. With your boss, the emphasis is really on preparation and clarity. Jot down your points beforehand, be specific, maybe even practice what you want to say.
For your homework.
Absolutely. Wilson also stresses avoiding absolutes. Words like always or never, they tend to shut down discussion. Use I statements. I feel concerned when X happens rather than You always do why.
Own your perspective.
Yes. And importantly, don't approach them when you're highly emotional. Listen actively. Paraphrase back what you hear to ensure understanding. Maintain positive, confident body language, not aggressive, just self-assured. And be open to compromise. No workplace gossip either. It's about being professional and effective.
Got it. What about more formal environments, like a big meeting or a professional networking event?
Preparation is still key there, maybe even more so. But then the focus shifts heavily to active listening, picking up on both verbal and nonverbal cues from others in the room. Paraphrasing becomes really vital to ensure everyone's on the same page, especially in high-stakes chats.
Checking understanding.
Exactly. Using open and closed questions strategically to guide the discussion. Maintaining a professional tone throughout. And if possible, having important conversations in person often allows for better clarity. Be clear about your own wants or needs, raise concerns quickly before they snowball, and keep communication straightforward.
Clear, concise, prepared. Okay, and lastly, what about romantic relationships? The advice here seemed really practical, maybe stuff we forget sometimes.
It really is. Non-negotiables. Focus your attention completely. Put the phone away. Avoid interrupting your partner. Try to establish a good atmosphere for difficult conversations, maybe not always hashing things out over dinner.
Set the scene.
Right. Make direct eye contact. Willson is adamant. Big, important talks should never happen over text message.
Oh, yeah, it's a big one.
It is. Use I statements to express feelings without blaming. Build trust by being truthful about everything, big and small. He also suggests the 24-hour rule for minor irritations. If it likely won't matter in 24 hours, maybe just let it go.
Good filter for small stuff.
Yeah, and this one's powerful. Touch each other while you talk. Holding hands, a hand on the knee, physical touch releases oxytocin, the love hormone. It literally deepens feelings of connection and trust physiologically.
Wow, the power of touch.
It's real. And finally, don't forget to add fun to your communication. Talking with your partner should often be enjoyable, something that builds those positive neurochemical bonds like dopamine and oxytocin.
Keep it light when appropriate. Connect physically. Be present. Great tips. So, wrapping this all up, the core message feels really hopeful. You really can do this.
Absolutely. John Wilson's point is that if you consistently apply these skills, they become learned, they become lasting. You'll start feeling more comfortable in most social settings.
And if a conversation doesn't go perfectly,
It won't always be your fault. You'll know you used your skills, you put your best foot forward, and sometimes it just doesn't click for reasons outside your control.
right, and maintaining that consistency you mentioned.
Life happens, right? Stress, new jobs, moving. Your skills might dip temporarily. That's normal. But the reassuring part Wilson makes is regaining that sense of ease is much less work than gaining it in the first place. You've built the foundation.
You don't have to start all over from scratch. That's comforting. So we've covered a lot on how to master your communication. As you've been listening, what's the one insight or strategy that really stands out to you?
Yeah, take a moment and think about that. Out of everything we discussed, what's maybe one small, specific action you could take this week? Something to intentionally step just a little bit outside your current social comfort zone using one of these ideas.
Because remember Wilson's point. Developing people skills is a trip, not a sprint. So what's your next step, however small, on this journey?